Welcome to Lessons for Life, coming to you live on a Monday night, and the war is hotting up. Is it really about to be World War III? We were wondering last time, and a week is a long time in politics, and there's a lot that's happened, and the situation seems to be getting worse. Russia sends over 400 mercenaries into Kiev to assassinate President Zelensky. And you will have noticed the change in the spelling of Kiev. And we are insisting on spelling it that way now because apparently Kiev was a Russification of the name Kiev. Kind of like the way the Brits came into India and changed Mumbai into Bombay. And now we've changed it back again and it's Mumbai. And the imperial powers have a habit of going around the world and changing the names of places, and Derry ends up becoming Londonderry to some people, that sort of thing. So it's important that we pronounce Kiev as Kiev, Kiev apparently, as that is what the Ukrainians prefer. And that's just one of the changes you may have noticed in the news recently. But there is a lot of hypocrisy, and with hypocrisy, we get whataboutery. A lot of people are saying, what about Libya? What about Iraq? What about other countries that have been invaded by the Western powers? Well, does that mean it's okay for Russia to do it? Does that mean it's wrong when they do it and it's wrong when Russia does it? And some people have made the point that Russia would have done Russia are doing what America would have done, but they've taken a little bit longer to do it. Doesn't make it's okay. If I kill you slowly, it doesn't mean it's any better than killing you quickly. On the other side, we've got Zelensky revealing that Ukraine prisons will release prisoners with combat experience. This reminds me of stories of the Black and Tans in Ireland, who went to quell the uprising after 1916 and then the War of Independence. Many prisoners from England were let loose in Ireland to try to maintain the imperial control. And you also heard stories coming out of Syria of Bashar al-Assad releasing Islamic extremists during the Arab Spring, because then he could be right and say, look, I'm battling these Islamic extremists, but he actually released them from prisons, apparently. So Zelensky might go as far as releasing the hounds, so to speak, in their desperate attempt to defend themselves from this Russian invasion. And there's a sense of Russia trying to achieve some kind of former glory. Very often, these dictators, Vladimir Putin, is he a dictator? Is he elected? He's just won an election, hasn't he? But what degree of freedom and democracy is there in Russia? Very often, there's this quest for a lost greatness. And Mr. A.H. during the Second World War, he harked back to the Aryan civilization and Germanic folklore because Germany hadn't really been an imperial power. And his good friend in Italy, Mr. B.M., he had to go back as far as the Roman Empire to look at any kind of great conquest, and ended up going to Africa to make him feel like he could conquer some people. So Vladimir Putin, is he trying to re-establish the Soviet Union? He famously said, if you don't miss the Soviet Union, you are heartless. But if you want it back, you're brainless. So he would probably deny that he wants to re-establish the Soviet Union. But what about an idea of greater Russia? Lots of countries, lots of ethno-states have this idea of, we've got our country, but what about greater such and such? and of course, going back to Mr. AH in the Second World War, he went to the Sudetenland because there were German-speaking people living there, people who considered themselves German outside the state. But Russia isn't really an ethno-state. There are many ethnicities and religions in Russia. If you have a look at these Muslim majority areas of Dagestan and Chechnya, they're in Russia. And the leader of the Chechen people, Ramazan Kadyrov, he is now good friends with Russia. Having been an enemy, he's now a friend. So you can turn a foe into a friend. That made him unpopular. That made him look like an Uncle Tom to some people. But it is possible. Could Mr. Zelensky one day be the friend? He's a sworn enemy at the moment. We are going to have to find peace somehow, and you can only make peace with your enemies, not your allies. And Mr. Zelensky, who played the president in a sitcom, is now the president in real life. That's called life imitating art. Almost too good to be true. And the point has been made that Ukraine is a secular democracy and Russia is not. We know there was a military coup in 2014, and that wasn't very democratic. They usually are not. But this guy won an election in 2019, didn't he? He beat the opposition. He is the democratically elected leader of Ukraine, and Russia are trying to invade. And let's have a look at Ukraine. Here is a map of Ukraine broken down by religion. So we spoke before about language, and language being an indicator of ethnic identity in Ukraine. There are almost up to a third of the population whose first language is Russian. Some of them are also Russian citizens. And when the Russian language was outlawed at the start of that coup, that was certainly one of the grievances of the people living in the eastern region in Donetsk and Luhansk that declared themselves independent. And if you look at the breakdown of the religious sects that the people in the east belong to, you can see that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church there follow the Orthodox Patriarch in Moscow. So in terms of religion, their leader is in Moscow. This is the sort of yellow cross down the bottom. Moving west, you've got a mix of Ukrainian Orthodox, still Orthodox Christians, Eastern Orthodox, but they're following the Kiev Patriarch and the Moscow Patriarch. So something of an amalgamation. And then further west, and in the central region, there you've got Orthodox Christians that follow a patriarch in Kiev strictly. And even further out to the west, it's the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, which is Catholic but not in union with Rome. So, not surprisingly, the further west you go, the closer you get to Poland, the more Catholic of a sort the people are. And the further east you go, the more religious, more Russian Orthodox, Russian allegiance the people have in terms of religion. So that's not really a surprise, but it does illustrate the sort of spectrum of ethnic identity, religious identity that there is in Ukraine. And like most things, it's not black and white, but we live in very black and white times when people just want to say, well, it's either completely wrong or completely right. War is a horrendous thing. I want to say war is always wrong. Is it always wrong to have a war? If you're Mahatma Gandhi, perhaps you think so. If you're a complete pacifist, but most people believe that there are just causes for wars. And a lot of Vladimir Putin's supporters recently, up until a month ago, were saying Putin won't be stupid enough to go into Ukraine. He won't be stupid enough to invade, or he wouldn't invade. And I wonder what those people are saying now. Are they saying we were wrong? Are they saying Vladimir Putin knows something we don't? Or are they just partisan and whatever Putin says goes? President for life. Can't put a foot wrong. I don't know. There was a false flag attack as a pretext for war. And many sides have used the false flag technique. If Putin used it, is that still wrong? It's wrong when we do it. It's wrong when he does it. What was the justification for invading another sovereign country? Was it an illegal war? Is that why Putin is being chastised and being hit with the financial the sanctions that he's been hit with? And let's have a look at this image here. You can see Vladimir Putin is attempting to expand his influence over dictators and failed states. Is it the case that the only people that will support him are countries that are not very free, countries that have other fellow dictators? Let's find out what PK thinks as we invite him to the chat. Hello, PK.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good. Glad to have you with us. And yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, good.
What's your friend Vladimir Putin doing?
Oh God. Well, this is we all knew it might happen, and he's gone and done it, hasn't he?
He's only bleeding gone and done it.
He's only gone and done it.
If his supporters were saying he wouldn't be stupid enough to do it, and if the reasoning was a false flag attack, why has he done it? Is it because of what I've got on the screen here?
I think, look, his ex KGB, Soviet era, you know, and obviously, I think the sort of collapse of the USSR, the old Soviet Union as it was known as, I suspect there's quite a few old KGB guys that feel a bit gutted about that, and I guess he's one of them. And I think it is a bit of trying to sort of bring back the good old days in a way.
Yeah, he did say. He said, "If you don't miss it, you're heartless, but if you want it back, you're brainless." So he denies wanting the whole Soviet Union, but who wouldn't want control? Who doesn't want influence? I heard today that he's a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, also looking at with the sort of resources that Ukraine's a very large country and it has a lot of resources. You know, they used to call it the breadbasket of Europe, didn't they?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So you think if he could control vast swathes of Ukraine and the rich fertile land, that means he controls grain as well. That's also
interesting. Do you think it's more about resources than the ethnicity of the people living there?
Well, it's difficult to say because one thing Ukraine has done is they've put a dam across the where the water goes to feed Crimea. So Crimea is in a really bad sort of drought state. In 1970s, they built like a waterway to take water.
Oh wow!
And
so because Crimea left Ukraine, they are punishing them.
That's right. Russia annexed Crimea, didn't it? And
well, some would say Crimea went back to being part of Russia, having been given to Ukraine from Russia in the 1930s by the Soviet Union. It was originally part of Russia. Well, and for a few decades, it was under the Ukrainian jurisdiction.
Yeah, I mean, good. I mean, it's a fair point, but the thing with that is when, say for example, when deals are done in the past by kings, queens, leaders, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Though you know that in good faith at the time, it's that's the way it is. You know, if like Alaska wasn't Alaska. I know it's going off track, but Alaska was bought
I think you're right.
by
It's changed hands a few
America.
times. Yeah. Do you know that there are even Russian Orthodox churches in Alaska because at some point it was in the hands of the Russian Empire.
Yeah, it was. I think they bought it off Russia.
I think you're right.
And
Kasif
actually,
Hanif is correcting me. Thank you. It was 1950s. Crimea changed hand in the 1950s. But sorry, PK,
okay,
go on.
yeah, and Russia is actually only a couple of miles away from America across Alaska.
That's amazing, isn't it?
So
I heard.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So to say that because Russia, it was part of Crimea was part of Russia once upon a time. I mean, the deal's done. They've done it, and for someone to come along later and go, "Well, I'm rescinding on that." Well, that's not good faith.
Well, the argument is it was done. It was not done democratically. It was handed by the Soviet Union without a vote, and it came back with a vote.
Okay, but
although
when deals
was it a free and fair election? We don't know.
When deals
We've
were
got
done
Andre with us, I think. If he can hear us, Andre,
okay.
welcome. Is he there? Oh well, I don't know if he can hear us. Sorry, PK. You carry on. But yes,
Well, the point I was just going to make was back in the days when it was kings and queens, and deals were done. That wasn't democratic, was it?
Very true. Nothing was
stands,
democratic.
It still stands. A lot of the things. But
this is the thing.
The thing I think that he's made a mistake with this is I don't understand why Russia and they're part of Europe, really. Okay, in a sense, there's no real difference. Why can't why don't just have Russia in NATO as part of NATO? Job done.
Apparently, apparently he requested that, and Bill Clinton laughed at him, and that was a long time ago. We've got to give Peace a chance joining us, and we always give him a chance, and we might have Andre as well. Give Peace. What do you make of all this? I mean, we're looking for peace just like you. How can we achieve it? Give Peace. You're in. You're on. Oh no, I think bad signal. Maybe someone's trying to sabotage us. Let's have a look at a couple other images. The far right, we like to talk about the far right on this show. Ukraine's National Guard boasts of Nazis killing Russian Muslims, orcs with large bullets. So because Mr. Putin is friendly with some of the Chechens now, and this guy, Ramazan Kadyrov, will be sending some Chechen armed wings to fight on behalf of Russia. The Ukrainian right-wingers are getting ready to kill them and defend them at the same time with bullets coated in pig fat. Gentlemen, can you hear me? Oh, sorry, PK, I think I lost you for a moment there. But I've got the story on the screen about the far right.
Ukraine. Killing Russians.
Because there are Chechen fighters coming on to fight on the behalf of Putin.
Yeah.
So any Muslims that rock up, they're ready for them.
I don't think that's a good idea, is it? I mean, because if you got these if Ukraine's mostly Orthodox Christian, and then he's going to throw jihadis in there essentially.
Well, it's a jihad of sorts, but ironically, there may be jihadists on the other side. Here's more. Here's more of the same. Real Mujahideen Chechens who are jihad against Kadyrov gang in the ranks of the Ukraine. Oh wow! I mean, this is turning on into the old the woman who swallowed the spider to catch the fly.
Yeah,
it's possible that Muslims may join the fight on both sides, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
as
I think
crazy as that
at the end of
sounds.
the day, if you know, I know geopolitically, there's a lot of history there, let's say, and I'm no expert on it. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, Ukraine is recognised as a sovereign state, a sovereign country,
It
and
is, but didn't it
and
sign an agreement? Sovereign Russia has an agreement that there'll be no NATO members on their doorstep. Uh,
okay, well, if Russia takes Ukraine,
mhm.
he's got NATO on his doorstep. So
Again, because okay,
that's a statement which doesn't make sense. Then, I mean,
brilliant
he's
point.
saying,
Square that circle. If he takes, well, that's what maybe he's saying. I don't want to take Ukraine. I don't want to take Ukraine. I want to acknowledge this eastern part of Ukraine, maybe as a buffer zone, to be
yeah,
independent,
yeah.
but Russia, um, rather than taking the whole country. Although he has said in the past that we are the same country. He's almost
So,
kind of denied the Ukrainian identity,
well, he
as
wrote an
Putin.
essay, didn't he? He wrote an essay
Yeah.
stating that he believes Ukraine is part of Russia. So deep down, that's what he really believes, regardless
Okay.
of the rhetoric in politics.
Hmm. Hmm.
Saying, I mean, why is he going to Kiev then?
Well, that's the capital, isn't it? How do
Yeah.
you conquer? Yeah, how do you defeat
So
an army?
if he only wants the old Russians, the Russian speaking enclaves on the east side, then he has no
Mm,
business going to the capital.
that's a very
So
good
again,
point.
you can't. What can you what can you make of that? He's not. He's advancing further than the Russian speaking places on the east,
Hmm.
or the people that want to be aligned with Russia. I mean, I think. But the thing is, he's crossed the border into Ukraine proper now. So
Hmm.
that's sovereign territory invaded. Uh, that is absolutely an act of war, and I suspect if any, we're in a different position in this country because we're surrounded by sea. But could you imagine if anyone went to try and get into France and any of those countries? It just wouldn't happen, would it?
That's yeah. Well, absolutely. Peter Bills is saying Minsk Accords, no additional NATO states bordering Russia, which Ukraine would be. And as you said, if he takes Ukraine, he's then on the
But the thing
border
is,
again.
with the Minsk Accords, it actually
Yeah.
says in that the West will guarantee. It says the wording is guarantee the security of. Now,
Okay.
so if you guarantee the security of, uh, that implies that NATO forces would have to, or weaponry, or which we're already doing. But when you
Hmm.
guarantee the security of, how are you going to do that unless you put boots on the ground?
Yeah. But
And
you
the
can't
Russian,
guarantee anything without
you can't.
some force,
I
can
mean,
you?
it's a right mess, all of it. But
Hmm. Do you think the war is being exaggerated in any way?
I,
BBC is saying that it's not going as planned, but surely Putin is clever enough to not be able to take
Putin
over
hasn't
with 200,000 troops.
Putin hasn't even gone in heavy really, because look at the actual weaponry that Russia possesses.
Hmm.
It's so they got a lot more heavier bombs that they're not dropping.
Hmm.
So
Well,
it
someone
may
was pointing out that his nuclear weapons are not as worrying as his regular weapons because with nuclear weapons, there's mutually assured destruction. Anyone he might threaten with them could threaten him equally, but
if
it's the
he
damage that could be done on the ground. No.
yeah if he drops a nuke, I mean, then he's absolutely insane, isn't he? He's absolutely insane. If he drops a nuke.
Well, look,
I
he's a multi-billionaire already. He's not. He's obviously not doing this for the money, is he? What's he
well
doing it
I
for?
No, he's not doing it for
Nationalism.
the, well. I mean, is nationalism bad because you all of a sudden with the all borders are bad type thing. Then we had
Yeah.
Corona and no one can travel anywhere. To
Hmm.
now nationalism's good. Come on, Ukraine. You see how it all twists about.
Do you smell a bit of hypocrisy?
I do. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think anyone looking at it would, wouldn't they?
I've
You
heard
know,
a lot of people
if
meant,
we're
yeah.
British and we say we're nationalists and say yeah we're proud of Britain, we get called Nazis and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Because of all the slave trade and all this. But if you're Ukraine now, it's like Ukraine stand together and rightly so. They should stand together, in my opinion. They're
Well,
Ukrainians. They should be proud of it.
there they are on the screen. These are some of the battalions that were absorbed into the Ukrainian national defense. So
Yeah,
the Russian argument, or Putin's argument, that I'm trying to denazify Ukraine. This lends some credence to that, but that's not the entire Ukrainian army. But they were absorbed into the Ukrainian army when the military
yeah.
coup
But
happened. So
isn't it?
it all gets a bit murky then, doesn't it?
It does. But then again, it is extreme far right any different to extreme far left? I mean, if Russia's still socialist or it's not, well, it's
Well,
not really a real democracy, is it? Let's
well,
put it like that.
it's not. But Putin is not a communist. The Communist Party are the opposition in Russia, and they
Okay,
apparently are supporting his actions. I've
but
heard
he's
that.
still acting like a dictator. I mean, it's not free and fair elections. He kills people that speak out against him.
Okay,
Well, we know he does because of it's obviously
not with
uh,
Novichok.
yeah, and it's not just
Mhm.
the guys in oh was it sales? Where was it in Britain?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
but there's other people as well that have been. What's it? I can't remember his name. Quite,
Litvinenko, he
yeah,
was an
him. And there's
opponent.
been a woman.
Yeah,
There's quite a few people that have met grisly
yeah.
ends.
Well, Yasser Arafat died from Novichok as well. I'll just
Interesting.
mention. Um, and there's me doing my whataboutery. There's been a lot of whataboutery going on, as you've brought up. What if British people said they were proud to be British when Ukrainians are celebrated for being Ukrainian? What about Liz Truss on our television saying, if you want to go and fight for Ukraine, we will support you in doing so?
Well,
How do you feel about that one?
I would say fine. I would say this: there's already British mercenaries out there, ex British services that are for guns for hire. They exist. There's no doubt about it, because British servicemen, Marines and
Hmm.
stuff like that, highly trained guys, know their
So what's
stuff.
to stop someone not highly trained saying, "Yeah, yeah, I'll do it. Give me the guns," and
Nothing.
then coming home and using them
Well, they wouldn't bring the
for
guns with them. They wouldn't
something
be
else?
allowed, would they? They wouldn't be allowed to bring the guns back home.
No, but well, that's a good point. Maybe the training and the skills. But I mean, oh, okay. What's to stop a Putin sympathizer pretending to be a Ukraine sympathizer going over there and just killing the other side?
Well, there's nothing to stop it, is there? Because
It's a bit.
what an individual does on an individual level for whatever
Hmm.
reasons they choose to do it, okay, whether they be a bad actor or not, is you can't really filter that out, can you? It's like
Hmm.
anybody could get in a car here and drive down the
Hmm.
road and kill people in the name of whoever, for whatever
It's a
reason.
good point,
So
PK. To be honest, I've always said it. If you can't stop a terrorist if they really want to do something.
I agree with you. You
In a
can't.
way,
It,
you can be
I
safe,
mean,
you can
look,
take precaution, but you'll never stop the individual who is determined.
that's right.
And
I
if
mean,
they've got a
you
death
could
wish
get
on
in a
top,
car. I could get in a car. I could go and murder loads of people, right? But your moral compass stops you from
yeah,
doing anything like that. You're a rational man. Same with me. You
yeah,
know, and the same with more than 99.9% of people in this country,
yeah,
or any country. Most human beings don't think like that. It's someone that's very twisted or
yeah.
mentally ill that would do that. Now to go to choose to go to a
O-
war
Of course.
to defend something which you think is just, is I don't think is comparable with taking innocent lives, like just murdering people willy nilly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think the two are equatable.
Do you think there's a double standard? Because people have said, why can a Ukrainian sympathizer go and fight in Ukraine, but if I sympathize with Syrians, I can't go and fight in Syria?
Well, it is a double standard, but then I guess one way to look at it,
Although initially many did and were supported in doing so, I have to say.
yeah,
It was the
okay,
opposition to Bashar al-Assad who were helped along the way. And then when the whole situation became too extreme, then people like
yeah,
Shamim Begum started getting arrested
I think
when they
perhaps
came home. But initially, William Hague was funding fighters that would. We were giving so-called
interesting.
non-lethal aid to the so-called moderate rebels who were still
Okay,
chopping people's heads off out there.
yeah, moderately chopping people's heads
Yeah,
off.
exactly. As George Galloway
Yeah.
says, they only chop half your head off.
Now
Luckily.
I think the way to look at that is this: if say the ideal you're fighting for,
Yeah.
if the ideal is freedom for all, in a sense, say you're in Ukraine, it's not democracy, freedom, and you could argue whether or not it's a real democracy, this, that, or t'other, or it's
Hmm.
really corrupt, or it was corrupt. We know it was corrupt, but this guy in power now seems quite genuine. From what I've seen of him, speaking, and he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's staying there. He's not running. He's not cutting the money.
Okay, you're
Taking the money
respecting
out.
the heroic. I'm staying. I'm not going nowhere.
Well, he
My
hasn't
family
yet,
are here. Like, yeah, yeah.
but he hasn't took the money and run, has he? Like
No, he hasn't.
so many do. So credit where credit's due. But I think if the ideal you're fighting for is world supremacy, to make everyone follow a religion, or
Hmm.
do you know what I mean, or sort of so you don't have freedom of choice, then I think that's an ideal not worth fighting for. But if you've got to fight that ideal,
What about the
then
freedom of
someone has to
the?
make a stand to fight it. So
What about the freedom of the people of Donbass, the People's Republic of Donetsk? I mean, 14,000 civilians have been killed at the hands of Ukraine. No, is Putin not stepping in to rescue them? Like Maggie when she went to the Falklands to protect British people.
yeah. Partly, I think that wasn't there a referendum in those parts of Ukraine that you've just mentioned, and it was to go back, or to be correct.
They declared themselves independent. No, we're having problems with PK, but hopefully we'll get him back on.
I know, like you're right. That has been a contentious border, but the way the Ukrainians are seeing it is, at the end of the day, the way they look at it is, the Ukrainian territory is part of those regions are part of Ukrainian territory on a map as such, right? So they're seeing it as Russia coming in and taking it. So that front line, if there's going to be battle there, of course there's going to be deaths. But it's a front line, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
as you say, it's an international border.
Now you mention it, Julian, which
Yeah.
is quite a very good point. That the West has been pretty quiet about that, hasn't it? And it could have intervened a lot sooner and got it sorted and broken the peace.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And the West could intervene elsewhere. The West could stop Saudi Arabia bombing Yemen. The West could insist that international law be followed and that places occupied, such as the Golan Heights, be returned to Syria. There are a lot of inconsistencies here.
Well, I've got an observation for you, which is
go on then.
Our country it's a big arms seller. You know, as a other European countries, Turkey
Yes.
as well. And
Yes.
if we don't have conflicts, we won't be able to make more bombs and sell them to
That's
people,
right.
Julian. You
That's
know what
right.
I mean?
That's right.
And so war's good for business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely right.
I'm being cynical, mate.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. No, you're correct. And while we're doing the whataboutery, there was the conflict recently in Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan attacking Armenia. No one
Yeah.
intervened. No one put any sanctions
No, well,
then.
Turkey supplied the winning side with loads of drones because Turkey are
Yes.
one of the biggest manufacturers of uh, armored drones, apparently, which I only read the other day.
Interesting, really. Well, there
Yeah,
you
it was
go.
in. It was in
And
a paper
Turkey
somewhere.
are a big
Somewhere.
player in this region. They're only across the Black Sea. I think as much as Putin might want to rekindle the Soviet Union, Erdogan wants to rekindle the Ottoman Empire, and
Absolutely.
and he's also an ethno-nationalist in the sense that the Azeris are a fellow Turkic people. Many of the Turkic Muslims from other countries were invading Syria. He was integral in the fanatics that went into Syria. And if any fanatics end up in Ukraine, uh, it would probably be down to him. I'm talking Muslim fanatics
Yeah.
in that sense.
I mean, if you think about it in one way, if you've got a big country like Turkey, which is relatively stable within its borders,
Hmm.
it's big military, powerful military, and they can, destabilize their neighbours, that that potentially allows for territorial gain
Yeah,
with a destabilized neighbour that's fighting sort of, you're sort of got a civil war going on, or an
yeah.
underground war going
That's
on
when you get
that you're
that's when you get an
feeding.
opportunity.
Yeah, you feed in, you weaken the opposite, you weaken your neighbours through a good 5-10 years
Yeah,
of war, guerrilla warfare with
yeah.
insurgency as such, and then as that society breaks down, you can push your borders forwards into it, and then claim to be a stabilizing force.
Yeah, claim you're a peacemaker, or as Vladimir Putin would claim, I'm Antifa, I'm anti-fascist.
Yeah,
Uh,
who,
that's
who would
always a
have
good
thought
line, isn't it?
it? Yeah,
That's always a good line.
that's very woke of him.
Yeah, very woke. He'll be flying the rainbow and all that.
Wow.
PK, I'm going to wrap it up on 40 minutes. Not nice, short and sweet tonight.
Yeah,
Really
brilliant.
appreciate you getting involved. We will come back to this topic. I've got another.
It's a very interesting time, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah, it is. And a week
I
is a long
hope
time in politics.
I hope they can somehow broker some peace before, because this will go on for years. Because if it just goes to guerrilla warfare, the, the Ukrainians are just, you know what I mean. It's going to go on for
Don't worry.
years, like when we invaded Iraq. And
Don't worry, PK. I heard Putin say, "Don't worry, it's only 2 weeks to flatten the Ukrainians." But
oh,
we've heard
brilliant,
that
brilliant.
before.
All right, my
Say no
friend.
more. Lovely to see you. It's been PK on Lessons for Life. We'll do it again
Good
next
night.
week.
Thank
Good
you.
night, mate. See you. Bye bye.